Well, hello there, folks. Laura here from FoodThyme&Garden. How are you doing today? Today is Bagel Day. Yes, it is. Martha Stewart and she has a big orange baking handbook, and she and I are going to make bagels today. This is another thing I've never tried before, so who knows? But I have a hunch it's going to turn out, so come on in and sit a spell with me and see what I'm up to in my kitchen. What I'm going to be needing is 3/4 of a teaspoon of active dry yeast. I don't have active dry, I have instant, so that's what I'm using. I need 1 2/3 cups warm water, about 110 Fahrenheit. I need 3 tablespoons of sugar. I need 4½ cups of bread flour, 1½ tablespoons of table salt. Now, does it really need that much table salt? Vegetable oil, bowl, plastic wrap, and parchment paper. Fennel seeds, poppy seeds, sesame seeds for toppings are optional. Coarse salt for toppings are optional. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Those are the ingredients. I will put them down in the description box below this video. So I've already pre-scooped 3 cups of the flour. I like to use a spoon and scoop it into my measuring cup and then use a straight edge and scrape it off to get a good measure. It's always good to do it that way. Your recipe doesn't fight with you then. So I added the yeast to my warm water, and I added just a sprinkling of sugar in there. I always like to do that. Whisk it around and you cover it for 5 minutes until it activates itself. Well, the instant yeast doesn't take all that long. So I added a bit of my flour, usually 1 cup at a time. And with my dough hook on my mixer, I will mix it up on low speed, folks. You don't want flour flying everywhere, because if you do, you won't be able to see through your glasses to read the instructions that Martha lays out. And boy, does she lay out the instructions. In a bowl of an electric mixer, whisk together the yeast and the water. Check, did that. Let stand until foamy, about 5 minutes. Check, check. Attach a bowl to mixer fitted with dough hook. With the mixer on low speed, add the sugar, 1 tablespoon of the salt, and you'll start adding your flour to your mixer. So I like to scoop in my flour with a spoon, little at a time, as I said before. And then mix it on low speed. Always remember to lock up your mixer. You don't want that puppy going flying. No, that's not a pretty sight. Ask me how I know. Yeah, I've had it happen. I had dough all over the place. So you want to mix it. Now the thing about this particular dough is you have quite a bit of moisture from all the water. Now it's going to be a tacky dough. Somewhat sticky, but tacky. You don't want a dry dough. You want it tacky. Yeah, sticky, tacky. Well, let me tell you. I'll tell you ahead of time. I don't think I filmed it because it was a mess. I had a heck of a time. What you can do, if it's too tacky, you can add 1 tablespoon of flour at a time to get it to a usable tacky, where you can handle it and transfer it from one bowl to the next without much difficulty. I didn't add extra flour. I probably should have added a little extra flour, but I didn't. And it was uber tacky. But I oiled my hands and I got it transferred to the oiled bowl. And you put some oil on your saran wrap as well that you're going to cover your bowl with, and then put a kitchen towel over the top and set it in a warm place for about 2 hours. So I'm mixing away and thinking, oh, that's going to be uber dry. Oh, no, no, no. No, it's not going to be dry. It's going to be tacky. And the thing about it is, when I made I made another internet recipe bagel. I did that yesterday, and see that my bagels were like that, tacky. But the bagels that I made yesterday, you had to make your dough, and then you put it covered in a warm place for 12 to 18 hours. And you let it sort of ferment. And I cooked them off yesterday. evening, and they turned out beautifully, just beautifully. So I think I will use that particular recipe instead of Martha's from this going forward on the English muffins, because it was a lot simpler. So anyway, I transferred that uber sticky tacky dough to an oiled bowl, and I'm covering it with oiled saran wrap, and then I'll cover it with a tea towel. And I decided to use that little bowl cover too, just to add a little extra warmth, because I am running my air conditioner today. So the air's a bit cool in here, and I want to keep it warm. But make sure that your bowl is covered completely with the saran wrap, because you don't want a crust to form on that dough. Not at all. You don't even want any air going in there. So I decided, let's cover it with another thing, and then the tea towel. Yeah, why not? I like using that thing. I don't know why. I got it at the dollar store. You might as well use the stuff you spent money on. So I covered it with the towel. And then I moved it. And then I covered it with another towel. Yeah, you thought I was done, didn't you? Yeah. And then I got the heating blanket. No, I'm kidding. I didn't get a heating blanket out. But hey, there's an idea. If you had a heating blanket on low and you set it on it, sort of like they do for seedlings when you're trying to sprout a seed. No, that's just ridiculous. Now that the 2 hours have elapsed, it's risen. I thought I would put a little bit of flour down, because this is going to be very tacky and it's going to be very oily. It's going to be very difficult to work with. I just know it. So I added a little bit of flour to the oily tacky dough, and I scraped it out with my fingertips, and I plopped it onto my floured surface as soon as I got it out of the bowl, which was a little, see, it's like the glob monster. Yeah, a little bit of flour sprinkled over the top, because I need to work with this and divide it into 10 supposedly equal pieces. Well, there's a way to go about it. You can roll it out and make a log. So I needed to get a bit of flour on there before I actually started dividing it a little bit. And a little on the bottom side, because it was quite oily. So I did that. And typically what I'll do is I will fold it in half and roll it out into a log, and then cut it that way if I needed that many. But I wanted to fold it in on itself a little bit. Yeah, I'm swaying from her instructions. So I decided what I was going to do was cut it in half, and then in half, and then in half, until I got 10 pieces. Well, I don't do anything without a struggle, folks. No, I don't. So I'm rooting around in my drawer to get my, which is right next to me on my left, to get my bench scraper, which I'll use to cut the dough. And I thought I might need the rolling pin. I don't know why. I didn't wind up rolling anything out. So I'm supposed to divide it into 10 pieces. Equal pieces, it says. Cover with a damp kitchen towel and let rest for 20 minutes. All right. So if you did that, you'd have 4. And if you did that again, you'd have 8. But you wouldn't have 10. So I cut that in half. And I felt like I was back in grade school and couldn't count. Couldn't count to 10. No. So what I needed to do was, I wanted equal pieces, folks. If you ever struggled in the kitchen trying to get 10 equal pieces of anything that's dough-like, well, you're better than me if you don't struggle. I struggle. But it's worth the effort. And to be completely honest, I do enjoy the struggle, because, I mean, if it was solely easy to do, I might get bored and never make them. So this is a challenge. I like a challenge. I do. I'm a girl who likes a challenge. So I am trying to figure out, how am I going to get 10? Now I have 6. And one off to the side, which is 7. So now I need to cut the bigger pieces, and I'm going to make 10. I will, believe me, I will get to 10. Yep, I do. I am smarter than a 5th grader. sometimes. But I do struggle, without a doubt. So I have 4 across the board and some small ones that I had cut in half. And I'm looking at it going, okay, I still have 8, so I need to make 10. So I need to take away from some and give to others. Well, it's, it's good to share, right? My grandma always taught me, it's good to share. So I'm sharing the wealth among my dough balls. Yeah, I still need 10. Yeah, so thought, well, maybe I put a little bit of flour underneath because this is going to have to rest for 20 minutes. Supposedly underneath a damp towel, which I don't want to wet a towel, so I'm just going to use the oiled saran wrap and cover that with a towel. And hopefully that'll work while it rests. I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, so I'm getting there. I'm going to get to 10. Believe you me, I will get to 10 come hell or high water. Yes, I will. That was one of my grandma's sayings. But so I took from the big ones and gave to the little ones until I got to 10. Yes, I did. I kept playing with it until I got to 10. I have 8 there right now. I need 2 more. And where am I going to get the 2 more? There's a big one right there at the top left. Yep, I'm probably going to take from that one. No, I must have 10. So I must have where you can't see in the video because I'm covering it, because I did have 10. 5 on each row. So now I'm covering it with that oiled saran wrap that I had covering the bowl while it was rising for the 2 hours. That'll work. You just need to press it down onto the counter, make sure there's no air, because it's just resting, so it's not going to be there for very long. Plus, I'm going to have a towel over top. So, it should be fine. I've done this kind of thing before. Yes, it'll be fine. So I cover it with a towel. And I had so many towels on the go, I didn't know which one I wanted to use. This was fun. I tell you, I giggled trying to get 10 balls. I went the hard way around the block. Could have been easier. Could have rolled it into a log and cut 10 out. It's easier to get equal, but no, I had to do it the hard way. Don't ask me why. It's summertime. I'm tired. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning, so I set my timer for 20 minutes. So, folks, the 20 minutes have elapsed, and it's time to uncover and see how our bagels are doing. Let's take a look. Oh, yes, they look relaxed. I see one over there with, looks like it's sipping a pina colada, a virgin pina colada. Yes, yes. So, I am supposed to roll these out to 6 inches long. And then I pinch it with my index finger and my thumb. I wrap the dough log around my hand, and there you got your bagel all shaped. And you pinch you make sure the ends that you pinched are together. But before that, you have to oil some parchment paper and put it on your baking tray so it's ready. Once you've got your bagels rolled out to your 6 inches and you've pinched it with your forefinger and your thumb like that, wrap it around your hand and lift it off your hand. And because I've added a little bit of flour when I was doing this, it's not too bad and sticky. There's my pan, because that's what fits inside my toaster oven, and I can fit 5 of these bagels on the pan at once. So I'm going to continue. And this was a simple, I thought this would be a lot more sticky, but it wasn't. So I think adding that little bit of flour helped me, because it would have been uber sticky. And they said oil your hands again, and I'm going, nah, it's a mess. So what I'm doing is working. So far, so good. We'll see. So you need to roll all of these out. This was a fun part. I mean, they turned into looking like a bagel right off. As soon as you took it off your hand, it looked like a bagel. An uncooked bagel, but it looked like a bagel. So we're getting somewhere, folks. We are. We are getting somewhere. Supposed to place them 2 inches apart on this baking sheet, but I'm lucky if I can get an inch apart, so I'm hoping that'll be okay. Because they have to rest for another 20 minutes until they're puffed up. And you'll have to cover them so the air doesn't touch them. And in the meantime, we want to preheat our oven to 500. But my toaster oven only goes up to 450. So I'll have to preheat it to 450. And then you fill a large stock pot full of water. They say the wider the better, about 5 quarts of water. Bring to a boil, and then we will add, we'll gently drop the bagels into the water for 30 seconds. It says as many as can comfortably fit without touching. For 30 seconds, and then take a slotted spoon and flip them over. Another 30 seconds. Using your slotted spoon, you will take them out of the water and you will put them on the parchment paper that you've had, like right there. I'll put it back on there. And that's at this point in time, because they're wet, you can put them with the sesame seeds and whatnot. Hello folks, I'm back again. So now it's time to boil the bagels for 30 seconds, flip them over, and boil them for 30 more seconds on the opposite side. Then we will be removing the bagels with a slotted spoon and putting them on our greased parchment paper lined pan, which we will put into a 500-degree oven for 5 minutes, and then lower the temperature to 350 for 10 minutes, and then flip it over for an additional 5 minutes of baking time. And then you have a delicious bagel. Now I had a few issues, not with the recipe or, well, with the recipe, yes. I should have cut out only 6 dough balls instead of 10. I would have come with a bigger size bagel that would fit in my toaster easier, where I wouldn't have to use my wooden tongs to reach in and get it. But so I think cutting it into 10 pieces was too many, and I think 6 would have been just perfect. So if I do this one again, I will only divide it into 6 instead of 10. And the cooking time, well, that probably is because of my toaster oven. I have a convection toaster oven, and it does not work like a regular oven, especially with baking. It's really finicky with baking. You almost need a real oven for baking, but anyway, the first batch had to stay in a lot longer. I kept adding 5 minutes, kept waiting for it to brown. It wouldn't brown, then it finally did about 20 minutes in. I find with my toaster oven, I have to leave it on for at least half an hour to 45 minutes. And then the whole oven gets hot, because the second batch worked in the allotted time. And it browned beautifully. The others, they browned, but not as much. So the second batch, because the oven had been on longer, they cooked beautifully for the allotted time. And my toaster oven will only go up to 450 Fahrenheit. So that worked out. But this was a fun experiment. I've always wondered about bagels, and I don't know why. I'm going to have to research it. Why do you boil them first and then put them in the oven? But they turned out delicious. You cut them open, even though they were mini bagels, which I prefer anyway. But I want one big enough for like a sausage patty or something to go on it. Anyhow, they cut beautifully, and they toasted up beautifully, and the texture was perfect on the outside and perfect on the inside. So, I mean, if you're just looking at taste, it was perfect. But I'm a visual person, and I wanted them to look like what I'm used to seeing in a bagel. So, and the way Martha explained how to wrap it around your hand and everything, you lose the hole. I'm used to at least having a small hole in the bagel. Some bagels have big holes. Mine had no holes, so they were holeless. But that's the first batch right there. And that took forever to get that color. But I used my temperature gauge and to know when they were completely done. So they were done, and they weren't overdone. And then the second batch coming up right here, browned the way I wanted them to in the allotted time. So Martha, I think, now I don't know whether I did something wrong or whether cutting it into 10 balls, unless she's going for a tiny bagel, was too much. 6 would have been better. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen. Well, folks, the question was, why do we boil bagels before baking? I didn't know the answer, so I had to ask Mr. Google Pants. The reason we boil the dough first is so that the outside crust sets before it goes into the oven. The shorter the boil time, the softer inside the bagel will be. The longer the boil time, the inside of your bagel will become more dense as a result. So now you know why we boil bagels first. That is, if you didn't know beforehand, like me. Anyhow, thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye now.